All right, let's get started. So, hi everyone. My name is Amina Patton. I am a senior academic partnerships manager here at Course Hero, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our afternoon session, The Power of Community Engagement for Nursing Students, which is going to be led by Dr. Maureen Herman and Madison Bletz, who is a former student and was a teaching assistant with Maureen. Before I hand over the mics to them, I want to go over a couple of housekeeping things. If you need captions, feel free to turn them on in the Zoom. You should see it in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. We're going to have plenty of conversation happening in the chat today, so feel free to drop in any comments, any feedback, and things that come up during our session today. And if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat, but to make sure that they don't get lost for our speakers, please use the Q&A button that you'll see at the bottom of your Zoom as well. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Maureen and Maddie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to come spend with us today. My name is Dr. Maureen Herman. I'm from Bradley University. I've been teaching in nursing education for over 20 years. I've been blessed to be part of the undergraduate and graduate community in higher learning. I've earned my BSN, MSN, and DNP from St. Francis Medical Center College of Nursing in Peoria, Illinois.
And I'm Maddie. I graduated from Bradley University this past May with my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. I also just took my nursing boards exam, the NCLEX, and passed. I will be working in the neonatal intensive care unit at a hospital near home in Chicago.
So before we get started, we'd like to share a little bit of a story. And our time together today will be about our assessment and then how we chose to address it within this course. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. At Bradley University, we have what's called a retention course. And the retention courses are for all freshman nursing or all freshman students across campus. Maddie and I are aligned with the nursing program. So we had a retention course of 21 freshman nursing students. These are kids that are just out of high school, and most of them are pretty far from home. And so this is all a new environment to them. So the retention course itself is to, when students come, for them to learn about each other, to learn about their campus, to learn about the different opportunities and student support groups and fun activities that are available to them to help them feel more at home. So with that, those of you that have, I almost want to say taught pre-COVID, we would walk into a classroom of 100 students, and the students would be up and they'd be talking and visiting and laughing and moving around, and it would just be a really active environment. Post-COVID, have not seen that as much as we once did. So for example, this particular course, we walk in the room and the lights aren't even on yet. They're very dim. And we turn on the lights and there's 21 students in the room. Everybody's on their phone. They're very quiet. They're looking at their laptops. Nobody's really talking. Don't see a lot of eye contact. And it really was somewhat socially awkward at the time. The students in our cohort, as you know, nursing curriculum is very rigorous. So it's good that the kids take this very seriously and that they are somewhat anticipated nervous about it, but we're also there to help them find a path for them to be successful. But at this time, they're looking through their schedules, they're looking at their classes, you see angst on their face. And again, nobody's talking, nobody's up bouncing around, and there was no need to say, okay, quiet down, let's get started, because you could hear a pin drop. Okay, next slide, please. So as we're assessing this room and we look around, we have an idea. Next slide, please. But first, Maddie has a few questions for you.
So we want to make this presentation interactive, so you can utilize the chat for this. So our first question is, why is it better to give than receive? You can jot down a few words in the chat, and we'll give you around 30 seconds. So you can go ahead. Very nice. I see some people are saying the fulfillment that you get to be a better person. Very nice. Well, our next question is, what are benefits of giving? And again, you can jot down a few words in the chat. We'll give you some time to do that. I like that, the discovering your own gifts, knowing you've made a difference even in one person, helping others. Very nice. Very good. So you can keep answering in the chat if you come up with some words, but so through our research we completed for our article, we found that there are many benefits of giving, including making you happy and appreciative, giving you a sense of purpose, building confidence and increasing self-esteem, and it also can strengthen the community and becomes contagious. Now, over the past several years, the word contagious hasn't really been seen in a positive light, but we are using it in a positive light here and throughout this whole presentation. There are also some health benefits of giving. For instance, it improves mental health by reducing anxiety and depression, and it can also lower blood pressure. So giving is awesome, and we all take part in giving every single day without thinking about it. Smiling at somebody, making eye contact, holding the door open at the store, or picking up an item maybe somebody dropped. These are all behaviors that eventually become a part of who we are. And we believe that giving is essential in teaching students kindness, empathy, and caring behaviors because this is hands-on experience that helps them learn. When one gives, it becomes contagious again, like we said, and becomes a part of who they are, and others will follow. So the mentality of what's in it for me becomes wiped away when they see people giving just to give. We have another question for you all. Does anyone know what community engagement is? It's okay to get out your phones or laptop to try to figure out what that phrase means, and you could share some examples in the chat again. Using resources to help others. Very good. Involving everybody. Yeah. Giving back to the community what they may lack. Good. And incorporating others in the community. Very good answers. So just to clarify, the new word for community service is community engagement. It is key in the nursing profession, but also many other professions and roles too. Community engagement allows groups of people to work together and learn and teach each other new skills. It also allows people to make connections with others around them in their community. We all have our own unique interests, but it's important to meet others because it helps us become more well-rounded, In the nursing profession, we care for people of many different backgrounds who have many different interests, and each client that I feel like I come in contact with helps me grow as a person. And the same happens with community engagement. So as a future professional, community engagement is essential in creating supportive environments where people want to give back and help one another. It also benefits the needs of our neighbors, stakeholders, and community. For instance, in this picture, we see a group of many people planting, making their community clean and welcoming. This activity may have brought together people within the same community who had never met. It also makes them proud of their community and more likely to want to keep it looking welcoming and nice. This creates many positive relationships within the community as a whole. Overall, giving and community engagement strengthens communities. Like we said before, it improves mental and emotional well-being, increases happiness and a sense of purpose. It becomes contagious, which fosters reciprocity and mutual improvement. For example, when individuals are supported by their neighbors, they're more likely to reciprocate the support by lending a helping hand when there's a need. And then a great quote that we took out from the research we found while doing our article was from Fleshman, which said, volunteering helps build a more cohesive, safer, stronger community and increases social network between communities and neighborhood.
So then let's go back to that problem that we had in the beginning. Since we now we have a good concept of giving, receiving, and community engagement, we have an idea. So we have students that are quiet. They're just staring at their phones. The lights are dim. They're not excited. 21 kids worried about the curriculum and don't know what their next day will bring. Let's get them on track to establishing friendships and jump into that role of nursing today. Okay, next slide, please. So what we've found in regards to the needs of today's generation of students is a few things. One of them is they highly appreciate being able to be in the role. They don't want to be talked to constantly or lectured. There's no more sage on the stage. There's no more standing and providing knowledge and content for hours on end. These kids, they want to start doing. So one of the first things that I'll do with the students is I remind them, yes, you're in nursing school. Yes, this is your first day, but today you are part of that profession. You are a student nurse, and therefore we need to start practicing and making a positive difference now. So with that, they kind of looked at each other and they looked at us with bewilderment, but okay, let's do this. So we've got them, they're buying in, they're ready. So we go through and we discuss the roles and responsibilities of a professional nurse. Since they're now in that role, they are a professional student nurse. Nurses, we advocate, we educate, we communicate, we case manage. There are so many roles that we as nurses put into our profession, into our patient care, into our daily lives. We use evidence-based literature to support what we need. So through that, we worked with the students to address the needs of that professional nurse and to promote a positive outcome and a positive well-being for our community. Now, mind you, too, many of these students, they don't know where the hospitals are in the town. They aren't aware of community centers. So this took some networking. Most important thing that we wanted for our kids to have was fun. We wanted them to have fun. We wanted them to develop friendships. We wanted to walk into that room and I wanted to say, okay, everybody, quiet down. I yearned for that, to hear them laughing and talking. But most importantly, they're going to make a positive difference, not only for those that outside of that class in the community, but for themselves and for each other. And to be honest, every year. They make such a positive difference for my heart. It's just the most beautiful thing to see. Next slide, please. So we decided we're going to bring in the concept of community. We're going to create a community engagement activity for these freshmen who are unaware of what's available to them in our town, in our county. With that, we created a rubric. The rubric will be put in the chat for you to see. In this rubric, we also will talk in a little bit about the purpose, our goals. We're going to discuss the objectives that were created, and then we're going to provide you with directions and an example of that rubric. And please, we would love to, if you would use it. And if you do and you find it was, we would love to hear from you, hear your stories. But so from an organizational standpoint, we're ready. Now we have to go to our students, our stakeholders, and get them excited. Instead of assigning teams, we allowed them to kind of think about what their personal interests were, to come up with some ideas about what they might want to do. And then we allowed them to get into groups of 2 to 4 students. And then they came up with, by networking with each other and within the community, what they wanted to do. Now, this did not need to have any financial implications. No money needed to be spent. The students were aware this is just doing good for our community and getting to know the community in the role of a professional student nurse. Next slide, please. So what we started to see after the first couple weeks is the students started talking to each other. They started sharing how, and we would have assigned time where they could share, the networking and what their ideas were. So we could start thinking about, if someone really liked animals, what are the local agencies in the area that could use some support? If we found someone had a great desire to be a pediatric nurse one day, all right, let's make contact at the hospital and see if there's anything that department or another group of students contacted the local orphanage to see what was needed. So they were able to take those personal interests, find friends that had the same interest, and then together go and make a positive difference. This opportunity truly gave the students the ability to understand how they can provide outcomes for others in need. And it also, as a nurse, this is a lifelong desire. We want to instill in them, this is not just today. This is not just for this assignment. This has to become part of who you are, doing good for others. Next slide, please. So the overall goal of the course initially was to get our students to feel comfortable on the campus, in the community, and develop friendships. These are forever friendships that they will have for the next 4 years and the rest of life many times. The purpose was to promote civic engagement and personal growth. Again, remember, students of this generation, they want to get hands-on day one. They want to be in that role. They want to see what it's going to feel like to be a nurse. So with that, we're providing them this opportunity to do that. Next slide, please. Objectives were formed, and with those objectives, they included, we're going to demonstrate a connection to the community. The student will explore roles as a member of a diverse and inclusive community, and the student will create a foundation for their postgraduate career as a nurse. This is just an example of the bottom half of the rubric. Students were asked then, they were all going to create a presentation. With this presentation, they would be developing a PowerPoint. That PowerPoint would be something that they would share, and we put it in there for the overview. Describe the members of the community you affected. Describe the engagement you completed. Describe the location of the project. Describe the timeline. When did it start? What did you do to prepare? And then what did you do once you were able to participate? and describe the significance and impact of the project on your community. So with that, students were able to provide all of those answers. And the students today, I must say, I wish I could show you every one of their PowerPoints. They are so creative and just, they are so technology brilliant. And so that's another thing we want to bring into any project we do, is to give them that opportunity to utilize those resources that they excel in. And for most students, this is one of them. So next slide, please. So of the topics that the students chose with their teams, again, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It doesn't have to be 20, 30, 40 hours of your time. It's all up to you and where you see a need is. So one of our first groups, they had gotten fleece and they had reached out to the local children's hospital, and then they were able to make small children's blankets for the patients on the floor. And then they then went to the hospital, gave these to the nurses. So not only did they get the opportunity to see the benefit of their hard work and to be proud, but now they have a connection with that unit, with that educator on the floor. And hopefully when they have clinical there, they're going to remember it. It's not going to be their first time. So they've had opportunity to meet those in the healthcare field. Other went college campus cleanup. They decided they were going to get some bags, and they just walked campus and straightened out different things. If a flower pot was crooked, they straightened it. Now, mind you, our campus is positively gorgeous, but the kids did such a good job. Anything, they went around others and hung up signs they made just with positive affirmations. So anybody who stopped to read the sign, it could say, "Today is a beautiful day." And that's going to resonate positivity with someone. Or, "Be proud of yourself." I know personally that if I see that in an elevator, it makes my heart happy. It makes me stop for a minute, and it gives me the opportunity to be grateful. So it can be something so small. Another group, they made goodie bags for Halloween and took it to local hospital, a different hospital, and provided that for all the children. When they could go trick-or-treating, they could get a bag. Another one, which I thought this last year when they did it was absolutely lovely, and again, got my heart, was that they made cards for the high school and the grade schools that they went to. And they took these cards and they shared them with those teachers that inspired them as they're now on their way to become a professional nurse. Another group, they took old t-shirts. They accepted donations of old t-shirts, then they tore up those shirts and they made dog toys for the local animal shelter. And they took those toys to them and were able to stop and take time and play with the animals. And they were absolutely in love, and they said that'll be something they will do forever. Next slide, please. And here are just a couple slides of how creative our kids were. This was the one where they made the t-shirts for the animal shelter, and it shares, how did we feel when we were doing the project? We felt like what we were doing was really good to make a positive impact in the shelter and for the dogs. It is a great feeling to know that the dogs in the shelter who are waiting for their forever home will receive some new toys that will hopefully make them feel loved and happy. Now, how can anyone go wrong with such a statement? Next slide, please. And here are some pictures of the group that made letters of appreciation to their teachers. And they took pictures and included in their PowerPoint. And some of them, they went through tremendous effort, and I am so impressed by their artistic abilities. So again, it doesn't have to be a giant national, international, opportunity to do things good. It can be something right at your neighbor's next door. Next slide, please. Here's another example. We had a group of students that went to walk and take part of a local agency for brain tumors. And then these groups, they went and they volunteered throughout the day, registering people. They connected with people that were fighting for the cause, and it truly inspired them in where they want to go with their nursing career. And it was so cool to hear these kids talk about the potential of neuronursing in the future. Now, as a teacher who teaches retention and fundamentals and basic health assessment for all these years, to see somebody thinking about something such as neuro ICU or something that exciting at a freshman nursing level, it was pretty cool. So we then gave them what was called a community engagement project survey. And there's a copy of the survey for you in the chat today. At the top of the survey, we wrote the statement, volunteering your time to help another is needed, in need with something you'll never forget. It will enrich your life, familiarize you with the community, and connect you to the people and ideas that will positively impact your perspective for life. Helping your community is an opportunity for you to grow as a person and better understand how you, as the future professional nurse, will fit the community around you. We then asked them a variety of questions. And with that, we took some of the reflections that we wanted to share with you today on how it made the student feel. Now, remember those objectives that we had back in the beginning. We wanted them to be comfortable in their community. We wanted them to make friends. We wanted them to have a voice. We wanted them to be proud of themselves and of their peers. Some of the reflections included, the experience made me feel happy knowing I was able to give others joy. I felt empowered and grateful for this experience. It felt good to meet new people and make connections. It made me feel like the new city is finally my home. It made me feel good to give back to those that have helped me. Again, as Maddie was talking about earlier, I did not know anyone before this project, and now I have made lifelong friends through this experience. Giving will make someone else feel better, which is a selfless act. Next slide, please. And here's some additional reflections that I'll allow you that if you could just read on your own. But we know through Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that need of love and belonging, especially during the time of COVID and isolation, that was very, very difficult to achieve at time, especially in the classroom with our students. So when we read that they were able to have that again, amazing. And as a fundamental nursing student, they need to know that we can make a difference every day by opening a door, by smiling, by saying hello, by saying, well done. This is engagement. This is doing for others. And when people see you doing this, they're going to want to do it too. So we had to also remember, as their teachers, we had to make sure that we had that open ability to share the importance of this community service and this community engagement. And we had to be the example as well and participate with them. Next slide, please. Maddie?
So another question, what other student groups or future student professionals would benefit from practicing community service? You can type your ideas in the chat again.
And our reason for asking this question is we know that there's probably a variety of educators in this room with us today. Dental hygienists, maybe engineers, teachers. It could be anything. And so any answer is a great answer. So we'd love to see where you come from.
Design students, very cool.
So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Future mental health, dental therapy, vet techs, respiratory, PT, amazing. Anyone and everyone. Okay, next. So we do have a couple questions for you. Could you ask, what did you take from today? And will you consider including a community engagement exercise in your future classroom? We'd love to see your thoughts in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and keep going, and please feel free to share that as we continue to go. But again, if you do use, we would love to hear from you. Next slide, please. So at this time, Maddie and I, we really just wanted to share our perception of this activity and of our time together as a faculty-student collaborative group. I want to give you a final though on that class, that last day where they did their presentations. The lights are bright. The students are up, they're walking around, they're visiting the tables of their peers. They're saying hello, they're laughing. When each group finished their presentation, there was applause, there was celebration. And when I think back to that first day, remember our problem statement, quiet, dim, no noise. It was the best feeling to almost say, okay, this was great. Okay, now calm down. We got to go to the next group, because they were so proud. With this particular retention course, we're assigned a senior nursing student. We don't get to choose that person. And let me tell you the pride that I had when I saw that Miss Maddie Poetz was assigned to me as my nursing student, because I had the opportunity to teach Maddie in her first year in fundamentals and health assessment. I remember Maddie, I'm going to say it, as that very beginning student. She sat at the left of the podium. Maddie was very quiet, but she always had a smile. And Maddie became a true leader in that classroom. I would see her up walking around, and I'm going to say it now, Maddie, I see teaching potential in your future. So it was an absolute honor. And to see Maddie with these kids and to see her inspire these kids, they came to her then with issues. They joined the Nursing Student Association that Maddie was in leadership with. They became a big part of our campus experience, and their positivity went well beyond our classroom. Others were able to see it, experience it, and be proud of it. Working with Maddie, another thing I remember, and as a novice nurse, writing an article, putting a project together, doing a presentation. To me, as a novice nurse, that was just way above anything I thought I could do. I would see people doing it, but for me, boy, I don't think I could ever do that. I'm not good enough for that. We as faculty must bring these kids in with us and inspire them and show them that they can be heard and that their voices matter and that they are our future professionals. They are our leaders. And so with this, Maddie and I were able to not only get published in a journal, but to experience that in that classroom on our campus, and now spend our time with you today. And it has been the most beautiful experience all around. So I thank you so much. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Dr. Herman. I'm so lucky that I had a professor like Dr. Herman who got me outside of my comfort zone and included me in a project that I wouldn't have ever thought I would have been a part of. Your mentorship has really helped me shape me into the nurse that I'll become, and always striving to be the best I can and knowing that I can make a difference. And just kind of a reflection of this whole project as a whole is I think that this would be an amazing way to have students work together, get to know each other, and get to know their community better. And reflecting on the project's impact, the freshman nursing students seem to really feel much more comfortable on campus, more friendly and social with each other, and seem to connect to the city that they were in, kind of helping them make college feel like their real home away from home. I think this type of project can be implemented in other classrooms, from elementary to higher education, and really any other type of environment, like how we saw in the chat, all the different types of groups that were doing something like this. And whether it be done in a small group or a larger group, no impact is too small. By doing an activity like this, students or whoever is participating will also gain the benefits of community engagement that we discussed. We do want to take a moment to thank this freshman nursing class that we had our project with for reminding us to never underestimate the strength of a small group. They made not only a positive impact for those in our community, but all of those who learned about what they did. We all have the opportunity to make the world a better place, and if you continue to give, it will come back to you in positive ways. And then to conclude our presentation, we just want to remind everyone that many times one can participate in community engagement in everyday occurrences. From small notes of appreciation to a large financial support, when you care and show empathy and kindness, you can never go wrong. When people experience kindness, they're likely to treat others with that same respect and generosity. And with time, the act of kindness and giving becomes a part of who we are. And then this was a quote that Dr. Herman actually found that we both really liked from Winston Churchill, which states, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give," which kind of wraps this whole thing into a whole and a lot of what you guys are saying in the chat. So thank you so much for spending time with us today, and feel free to contact us with any questions, comments, or thoughts. Here are some of the references we used, and question time. Feel free to post whatever questions or comments for us. I know somebody was asking, how would you address the students' time constraints? Um, I think it kind of, you could tailor this project to whatever your students kind of need. So possibly if they do not have a ton of time, like outside of the classroom, maybe it's a smaller thing, but no impact is really too small. So we even had a group of students that just wrote on Post-it notes and like put them around the college, which made a difference.
Even that activity, it was just so cool because people would, see them and they had somewhere people could take it if they needed it. And so then occasionally I would see a Post-it note just randomly across campus. It's just a good feeling. And as a teacher, just make sure you've got plenty of paper, markers, scissors, and tape, no matter if it's kindergarten or master's in nursing, because we will put it to good use. We also had some students who maybe like the ones that gave their day to volunteer at the brain tumor run. We also had some that weren't able to give that day, but they were able to create the bags that they took to the pediatric unit and still be able to network. They didn't necessarily hand them out to everyone, but they still had that feeling of pride. And then they got to be friends. And then they met someone that they will be very soon.
That's amazing. I know there's another question in the Q&A I want to make sure you didn't miss. So did you encounter any resistance from students who did not see the value in this activity? If so, what were their concerns?
We did have one student, to be honest, we didn't have any students that said there would not be value within the activity. I didn't hear any rumblings. At first, the rumblings kind of were almost like, what do you mean I got to talk to people type thing. But once they started doing it, every day we met, the room got a little louder and it got a little brighter and it got a little happier. We did have one student who did not participate. And she was struggling in regards to talking with others. And by the end, she was sitting with some other people. However, she did have a comfort restriction about working with others. So what we did was over holiday, she came up with an idea that she would involve her family with. And so then she taught her family about community engagement, about giving, about everything we talked about today. And then she and her grandma, they baked and shared with others. And it was just so she was able to experience it, but just in a different way. We have to be ready to make those adaptations if needed. And again, the end of the day, she made friends. She was smiling instead of in the beginning, sitting in the corner with her hand on her forehead, staring down. She was looking. So to us, that was a massive success.
I think it also goes with like how you approach the assignment and project, where me and Dr. Herman were very like, this is gonna be great and like very positive going into it. So if you were to announce an assignment and say, oh, you have to do this and this and this, like they might not be as accepting of it, but if you're like getting them excited to do it, then I think that also helps.
I love
Absolutely.
that. If they saw the excitement in us, remember that word contagious that Maddie would share? We did our best to be positively contagious to these kids. And honestly, they were excited. It was awesome. And I hope you all enjoyed today. And I hope that at the end of the day, just be good. We're all good. And just let the world see. It's a beautiful place.
And I know there was a question earlier, I think way earlier in the chat, about how, since you're focused in nursing and so you're focused on helping them with caring for others, caring for people, how did you notice that translating to if someone wanted to work in an animal shelter or do something in relation to animals? Did you still see that transference of them caring even if they were working with animals instead of humans?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Absolutely. Because not only did they do for the animals, their positivity was with those that volunteer at the shelter as well. And then they brought that all back and not only shared it with us, but they shared it with others. And they had plans for going back and doing it again. A lot of these kids, it wasn't just a one and done. They were invested. And there was others planting flowers, cleaning up to anything you do that can lead a positive difference on person, a pet, an animal, a loved one, a neighbor, the garden, the bookstore, the light, anything. It, you can never go wrong.
And I think another major thing is that having them like try to find that problem. So this is just an example. They've found maybe the animal shelter was their problem, but they'll be able to eventually take what they did with this project, finding a problem, figuring out what they could do, and then actually doing it when they're actually a nurse or when they're actually an engineer or actually a dental hygienist, like taking that initiative and having that background. Oh, like I've done this before with something else, but using that experience to grow in their own profession.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much for presenting today. I can see in the chat people got a lot out of this presentation, so we really appreciate you wrapping up our summit for the day. I wanted to thank everyone who is on the call for joining and participating in Summit today. We really appreciate you. And if you have time, fill out the short feedback form for us. I just dropped the link in the chat. We love to hear from everyone how they experienced the event, if there's anything that we can improve upon. So please take a moment to share. Again, all recordings and everything from today and yesterday will be available next week, as well as certificates of participation and all of that. So you'll be hearing more for us in the coming days, and we appreciate your time. Thank you again, Maureen and Maddie, and I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.